So the goal today is to install a hidden winch in the rear of the truck under the flatbed. I've had this winch for a while. Got it at Harbor Freight. Their last Black Friday sale. Got a really good deal on it. 9,000 pounder, so should be plenty for this truck. And the issue is that currently my receiver hitch is right where I want the winch to be. I want the winch to exit right there in the center of this cross member. I mean, I don't want it to be below the hitch. I want it to be above the hitch. The problem is I can't fit it above here because there's just not enough room underneath the flatbed. So my first step is going to be cutting out this receiver hitch and these safety chain hooks and just cleaning all this out, getting it ready, put the winch in. We'll save these guys, probably reuse them. These I will not be reusing. Okay, we got those cut off. Going to now work on getting the tube out. Success. We're going to reuse that. Alright, so I've got the hole cut out here. What I'm going to do next is test fit the plate that I've got. This is 3/16 plate. I've cut it to size already. I actually had the metal guys just cut it to the dimensions that I asked for to save me some time with the cutoff wheel, so hopefully it fits. Alright, I test fitted in here, and we've got a little bit of interference down here where the old welds are here in the corners. It's hitting these sharp edges here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a few millimeters off each of these edges. Alright, so I got working here and I forgot to mention what I was doing. I'm cutting out the area for the new through piece. That's going to be basically the piece that holds everything together now that I've cut so much structure out of it. I wanted to make sure that it was really solid all the way through. So I'm taking a hole saw and I'm basically making the outline a little bit bigger than the fair lead will need to be. So it'll be a nice through pass for the winch rope. Now I'm measuring to make sure I got everything centered, and I'm connecting the two holes that I drilled. These are the pieces that I made to fill the angled spots that I just cut with the holes. And these are the 1/4 inch plate that I'm going to be welding in between. Cutting those out now. Welding the whole assembly together. I left a little bit extra on the edges there so I could get it nice and flush, weld it in, and then smooth it out. Okay, so what I've done is I made this piece here that's going to insert into the bumper and go all the way through. I'm going to obviously weld this all the way around on both sides. This is going to fit right inside that hole there. I've patched some of the areas here, just tacked in, but I've patched the areas that are going to be loose. I'm going to grind all this sort of smooth and get it nice and prepped. Then hammer this into place, and then I'm going to fully weld it all the way around on both sides. That should be nice and strong. Now I'm welding in a couple small patch pieces. And then putting the through assembly there and welding that in place. Alright, I got it all welded up and sanded as best I could. I still need to pick up some sanding wheels to do the inside. I ran out, but it's looking pretty good. Welded all the way up on both sides. And what I'm going to do next is go ahead and get the winch plate put in place and get that welded in. Okay, I've got the winch plate held in place, mocked up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find where I'm going to mount the receiver hitch and mark it or tack it in place. That way I can pull the whole plate off, flip it over, and weld the receiver hitch and the gussets and everything before I put it on the truck. All right, I've got it locked up at dead center. I'm going to go ahead and tack that in place. All right, I've got this taken off. I made these gusset plates. I'm going to put a couple of these on each side. I haven't decided yet. I may end up running another, like a 1x1 or a 2x1 or something bar in the back. Just depends on how much this flexes. I think it should be fine. This is basically going to be the same as it was before. It was just welded here through the cross member. So, and this entire thing is going to be welded, so it should be fine. But I'm going to put these gussets on here just to spread the load out a little bit, get those welded up. I've got the winch plate tacked in place, lined up, everything centered. I am going to fully weld this thing all the way down this outside line, as well as all the way along this inside and along the frame rails there. So it should be extremely solid. It's going to take me a while because I don't want to put too much heat into it, so I'm going to do it in sections, but I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. Hopefully I can get it done before the rain comes today. All right, I got it welded all the way around, all the way along the bottom here, all the way along the inside, all the way around, and I also did it underneath. The wind caught my shielding gas a bunch of times, so I got to go back and clean it and probably touch up a few spots, but it's solid. I mean, that's as rock solid as it could possibly be. So I'm going to clean these up a little bit, go back and re-hit any sections that need it, and go from there. So because this fairlead is made to bolt to a thin sheet instead of a three-dimensional tube, I can't just bolt it on there. So what I'm going to do is I took the bolts that the fairlead came with, I sanded off the front of them so that they'll weld, and I'm going to stick them right in here like so and just weld them in place. They'll basically become capture nuts. All right, I got those welded in, so now they'll capture the fairlead bolts. I'm losing daylight here, so I'm going to go ahead while I have the welder out and install the safety chain catches. I'm thinking I'm going to put them probably on the gussets, or yeah, I'll probably just do them right on the gussets. That should be plenty strong. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll do them up here. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and get those put in place so I can put the welder away. All right, so I'm going to get the winch mounted in there, get the holes drilled for it. I just made this tin plate with a piece of insulation. I just pushed it down on top of the bolts. So it'll give me a nice tin plate to use. I'm going to drill this out and then get the holes transferred onto the winch plate. All right, I've decided on the positions. I got the winch mounted in place, and the control box is going to go here on the left. Right now it's only supported by this front plate. I'm going to build a little plate to support the backside. I did it there because obviously so the wires will reach where they need to plug in. Also, now I can just reach under here, pop this off, and plug the remote in when I need to use it. So that'll be very easily convenienced. That would be very conveniently located for me to plug in the remote. I got bit by the unnecessary work bug and decided to build a platform for the winch controller. So I cut out the old gusset that was there and replaced it with this piece right here and tapped these holes, and that's where the winch controller is going to mount now. All right, so I got everything welded in, holes drilled, mounts, everything, controller mount. And what I've done is I'm trying to determine how much cable I'm going to need to run from the controller to the battery. So I took a string and tied it to approximately where it's going to go at the controller. I ran that all the way under the truck along the frame where I'm going to route the cable up through the engine bay here and to my battery. So I'm going to cut that and measure that string, and that's going to tell me approximately how much cable I need. All right, so I got it stretched out to its full length. It's looking like I'm going to need about 17 feet, and I believe they come in lengths of 15 and 20, so I'll probably have to order a 20-foot roll of negative and positive. Pull off positive. Positive cable off. All right, so I've gone ahead and crimped and heat shrunk one end of each of the wires. I'm going to go ahead and hook this end up and start routing everything underneath the chassis. All right, so I've got everything wired in. I got the controller bolted down, new extended wire into the controller, everything wired from the controller to the winch, and the new negative cable underneath the winch. Done is I've zip tied the positive and negative cables together all the way to the end. That's just going to allow me to a little bit less hassle of routing them through the frame, keeping them together like that. So I'm going to go ahead and route those up through the frame up to the engine bay. The magic of YouTube may have made that appear like it did not suck, but I assure you it did indeed suck. It was 10,000 miles beyond the boundaries of Suctasia. It probably took me about 90 minutes to route everything up. If I was going to do it again, I should have started at the battery side and gone backwards, because getting it up behind the brake booster, down here behind the steering shaft and everything, it just weekend sucktacular. All right, I got everything wired up. I used some space here to put the shut off. I'm gonna go ahead and test it out and see if it works. All right, got it all back together. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm gonna have to do something about this license plate. I have a feeling I'm gonna catch that. I had to move it down so I could still access the plug-in, but it looks pretty good. This is mainly because I have all these trailers that I use for work, different trailers and whatnot, and my driveway where I store them here is kind of awkward to get in and out of. So the winch is going to be primarily used to pull trailers to the truck instead of having to try to move the truck around to line them up with the trailers. But, you know, also can use it for recovering other people or covering myself if necessary. And I can think of 100 uses of jobs where I could have used a rear winch. So I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of this thing. So anyway, I'm happy with it. One more project off the list.